Hi, in this video we will learn how to transform an augmented matrix or a matrix into a row reduced echelon form. Well, obviously using elementary row operations, yes. So there are different ways to do this. The method I want to use involves 4 steps that we have to repeat and repeat again until we turn the matrix into row reduced echelon form. Let me write down the steps here. The first step is choose an entry to be the next leading one. Well, this step doesn't involve any row operations. The entry we are choosing, I will circle it just to identify the entry. And note that we may have done these steps before and we may already have some rows with leading ones. So we are starting from after those ones. So we will look for the next leading one. Then move its row, so the row of the entry to be leading one, move the row up just below all the rows, just below all the rows which already have a leading one. So this way, this move just below all the rows that we already done with their leading one. Okay. Then the next step is turn that entry to 1. If your entry to be next one is not 1, well, it doesn't need to be 1. You have chosen that to be leading one. It might be 2, so we have to turn it into 1. Okay, so multiply its row by its inverse to make it, to turn it into 1. To make it 1. Well, obviously you see the constant multiplied to a row is the elementary row operations we do. So now after this step you have a 1 in on the right spot. It is 1 and it is going to be leading 1. Now we have to make everything else in that column 0. So use that leading 1. Use the leading 1, to make all other entries in its column 0. Well, this step will involve operation of like Ri multiple plus Rj. So replace Rj by a sum of Rj plus a multiple of Ri. This other step will involve just multiplying a row by a constant. And the second one will involve the interchanging 2 rows. The first one, as I said, it's not any elementary row operation. It's just something from the process. To keep these things in mind, I made this poem-like thing that will hopefully stick into your mind and you repeat that thing. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1, reduce the column, using the 1. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1, reduce the column using the 1. Okay? So let's do these steps in an example, and then you will see how these things are working. The matrix we have is an augmented matrix and starts with 1 1 3 1 2 1 4 2 and 0 1 0 3. Okay, very nice. So we start. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1. Yes, choose it. So the first leading one, we have to choose the first leading one. The way we choose it this: we start from left and then move to right. The whole thing, the whole row, we move the column by column. Whenever you get into a non-zero entry, you stop. Okay, so here we have 2 of those non-zero entries. Now we can choose any of these 2 to be our next leading one. I can choose either 2 or 1. 0, no, you cannot choose 0 to be your next leading one. It should be non-zero entry. So you choose 1. Why did I choose 1? Well, first of all, it is 1. I don't need to turn it to 1. And the second, it's in the right place. It's at the top of the matrix, yes? So I don't need to move it also. So choose it is done. Move it, I don't need it because it is at the top. Turn it to 1, it's already 1. Now we have to reduce the column using the 1. So I have to now that it is 1, it is in the right place, I can say that, okay, it is, when something is 1, leading 1 in the right place, I will put it in the box. Okay? Now, I have to use this guy to make everything else in that column 0. This guy is already 0. Now we have to work on this one, yes? How to make this one 0? Well, remember, the operation we need to do involves replacing a row by sum of the row and multiple of another row. What we do, so I want to make this guy 0. Take its negative. So it is negative 2. Multiply to the row with the leading one. So here is R1 and add it to the row R2. So this way, I'm not changing row 1. I'm not changing row 3. So I'm writing them back. Here, what happens is row 2 minus 2 times row 1. Here, this is 2 minus 2 times 1. This is 1 minus 2 times 1. This is 4 minus 2 times 3. This is 2 minus 2 times 1. Yes. So this matrix or augmented matrix is, I'm just simplifying them. Yes, just writing one entry. This is negative 1. This guy is negative 2. This guy is 0. And then 1, 0, 3. Okay, very nice. Now we have our first leading one in the right spot. And then everything else in that column is 0. Done. We are done with the first series of steps. The first leading one is done. Now we have to move and find the next leading one. How do we do that? cover the row we just made a leading one for. Okay, so ignore that column. Now repeat the steps we have. We are going to choose it, move it, turn it to 1. So you move from left to right, column by column, and stop whenever you hit a non-zero entry. Here there are 2 non-zero entries. We have to choose one of them to be our next leading one. Which one you're choosing? I can choose either this one, -1, or just 1. If I choose -1, I need to multiply it by negative sign to make it +1. If I choose 1, I have to replace it. So I choose any one, even computationally won't change work much. Okay, very nice. I choose that one. Choose it, move it. Where do I need to move it? Move it just below all the rows which already have leading ones. There's only one such row, and our row is just below that, so we don't need to move it. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1. It is -1, and I have to turn it to 1. How do I do that? Well, multiply the whole row 2, by inverse of that. Inverse of -1 is just -1, yes? So we multiply the whole row 2 by -1. This will be 0, 1, 2, 0. And row 1 is this, 0, 1, 0, 3. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1. Okay, then it is our next leading one. Before we had one leading one, now we have another leading one. Yes. The last step, reduce the column using the 1. So we have to use this column now, this 1, to make everything else in that column 0. This guy needs to be 0, this guy needs to be 0. How do we do this one? First of all, we can do this step at once. You don't need to do several. What we do, so to make this 1 up here in the row 1, we multiply the negative of that to row with the leading one. So -1 times row 2, and then add it to row 1. So negative of the entry to be 0, multiplied to the row of the entry with leading 1, and adding back to that same row. So it will be 1 plus minus is minus, so 1 minus 0, 1 minus 1, 3 minus 2, 1 minus 0. We are not changing row 2, so I will leave row 2 like that. And now at the same stage, I can turn this other one also to 0. How do I do that one? Negative of that is -1 times R2, the row with entry with leading 1, and then add it to the row of the entry to be 0. So this will be 0 minus 0, 1 minus 1, 0 minus 2, 3 minus 0. So let me just simplify this. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 0, 0, -2. And here we have 1, 0, 3. Very nice. So we did another series of choose it, move it, turn it to 1, and then reduce the column. Yes, we found 2 leading ones, and now it's turn to do the third leading one. We cover the rows with leading 1, and then start from left, move to right one by one, and you stop wherever you you see first non-zero entry. This is the first non-zero entry we see, -2, and there's only one of those in that column. Negative, it was negative, yes. So I choose that -2 to be my next leading one. I'm done with choose it. Now, do I need to move it? No, I don't need, because it's already just below the rows with leading one. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1. How can I turn that to 1? Well, inverse of that, multiply to the row. So other ones we are not changing. But row 3 we multiply everything by 1 over -2. So this will be 0, this will be 1, this will be -3/2. Okay, so now it is in the right place and it is a leading one, so I can put it in the box. But we are not done. We chose it, we moved it, we turned it to 1. Now it's time to make everything else in that column 0. So I have to make this guy and that guy 0. How do I do? As I said, we can do this at once. To make this one 1, 0 here, okay, we multiply the negative of that, so -1 times the row with the leading one, so row 3, and then add it to the row of the entry to be 0, so row 1. This is the same thing as row 1 minus row 3. How about this 2? How can I make that 2 0? Well, negative of 2 is -2. Multiply to the row with the leading one, which is row 3. Add it to the row with the entry to be 0. So this is row 2 minus, sorry, this was plus -2 times R3, yes, which is the same thing as this guy. Since we are not changing R3, this is good thing to do at once. So let's see what will happen. So for the first one, we have 1 minus 0, 0 minus 0, and 1 minus 1, and then 1 minus -3/2. For the second one, we have 0 minus 0, 1 minus 0, 2, sorry, we need to multiply the row by negative, so 0 minus 2 times it won't change anything for us, but minus 2 times 0. Here what we have is 2 minus 2 times 1, and here we have 0 minus 2 times -3/2. And if you simplify these ones, you get 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. And then up there, this is what? 1 plus 3/2. This is 5/2. This guy is 3. And the other one is -3/2. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1, reduce the column using the 1. Okay, so that is now all 3 rows have leading 1, and we don't need to do anything else. We are done. So these are the steps. We will do more examples to cover all these things. Well, as you can see, I will repeat these steps. Choose it, move it, turn it to 1, reduce the column using the 1. You'll see more examples in other videos.